Hi, and welcome to California's 26th Congressional District Town Hall. I'm here today to answer questions from voters. I have 4 pages of questions that I have not reviewed before this town hall, so I'll be answering questions as if people were here today. I know we have challenging times with COVID. That's why we're doing this town hall via Zoom. I hope everyone was able to tune in and send in your questions. If you have not sent in your questions, you can do so by calling 805-665-3991, or you can email us at rbktownhall@gmail.com. If you don't hear your question, if you sent in a question and you don't hear your question answered today, please contact us so I can get your question, resend it in prior to the conclusion of this town hall. We do have a small group here in person. We are practicing social distancing and everyone wore a mask in. And we do have snacks, so people are free to remove their mask and eat a snack or take a drink of water or so. So with that, I know many of you may know me. If you don't, I'm Ronda Kennedy. I'm your congressional candidate for your district here. It's California's 26th Congressional District, which encompasses Oak Park, Westlake, Thousand Oaks, Camarillo, Newbury Park, Port Hueneme, Oxnard, Ventura, Ojai, Fillmore, and Santa Paula, as well as a few streets in Simi Valley and about 3,100 people in Malibu in LA County. So CA26 covers 2 counties. I'm an attorney. I'm a mother of 6, including 7-year-old triplets. I'm a constitutionalist, and like many of you, I am currently fed up with the bickering in Congress and the divisiveness. I want to be a moderate voice, a representative for CA26. I'm here doing a town hall, and I promised, once elected, every Wednesday, I will give an update on what's going on in DC. This is not my seat. This seat will belong to CA26. It belongs to the people. We are a republic. A republic means we are governed by the people. The people elect one representative to be their voice, and I will be your voice in Congress. With that, we have 2 volunteers that are here that will be reading the questions that were submitted either by voicemail, text message, email, or on social media. All those platforms are open and ready for your questions. We have Jordan Grout, who's a Los Angeles County school teacher, who is here today to read the questions. We also have Carla, who will be interpreting it in Spanish, and she's a paralegal. She's also an attorney in Brazil, correct? Perfect. Yes. So with that, Carla, if you want to say a few words to our Spanish listeners, just a brief introduction for me, that would be great.
Esta es Ronda Kennedy. Estás acá para que todos los otros sejam bem-vindos. Esta vai responder algumas perguntas. Estas perguntas estão na internet. Você pode perguntar e nós outros vamos fazer o possível para que respondamos corretamente.
Thank you. Gracias. All right. We'll start off with our first question, and again, I have not reviewed these questions prior to coming here today. I do have a copy for my own reference, but with that, this is just strictly a town hall. And also, if the audience wants to also ask a question, please just raise your hand, and Mike O'Brien here will get your questions. Okay? Thank you.
So the first question. I like your idea for the testing, but what about the restrictions placed by the state on public gatherings and businesses? It's obvious this lockdown hasn't worked, so what next? Should we push to reopen everything and just keep the mask mandate?
Nosotros gostamos de la idea que estamos testando sobre as restrições nos lugares públicos. Pero todos estão cerrados e não estão trabalhando muito bem. O que você gostaria que nós outros hacemos? Que nós outros abrimos todo e continuemos a usar uma máscara?
Is it just this question? Okay, thank you. I think the restrictions on public gatherings and businesses should be loosened. Businesses should be open, and we can safely open businesses. Other states have shown us that it's absolutely possible. As far as public gatherings as well, there's other public gatherings in other states that have been able to do it safely. I think if we just practice frequent hand washing and some social distancing, we will be able to resume our normal activities. But businesses are very important, that they should be open. Some businesses are open that the government deems essential services. However, there hasn't been any data that shows that closing the businesses are actually reducing the numbers of COVID. We've been closed since March. There are many businesses that have gone under. We're going to lose about 25% of small businesses here in Ventura County that's jobs that's going to be leaving. Ventura County just recently loosened restrictions, and we're able to eat indoors with practicing social distancing. So I believe that we can expand those to all businesses here in Ventura County and get them open as quickly as possible. Thank you.
What do you think is the best course of action for CAGOP to win future elections?
O que você pensa que é o melhor para as ações de CAGOP para ganhar as futuras eleições?
I think the best course of action is to continue the path that we're on by being more inclusive. There are many people of different walks of life, of different races, different religions, different cultural beliefs, but we all share similar politics. Not everyone of color shares the same values and the same political platform as Democrats, and not everyone who's white over the age of 50 is a Republican. That's a myth. We need to broaden our reach and actually go out and talk to communities that Republicans haven't been in quite some time. Joe Collins down in Maxine Waters' 43rd Congressional District has shown that to us by reaching out and running as a Republican. He grew up there, he lived there, he understands what it's like in those neighborhoods. Maxine Waters doesn't have a clue. She lives in a $6 million house outside of the district, similar to my opponent, who does not live in Ventura County, but lives in Santa Monica and commutes here and does not see the everyday struggles of Ventura County and the businesses. And so I think that if the GOP continues to cross those economic and those racial lines and recruit people in and let them know that Republicans are the party of hope. I mean, when you look at what General Grant did, and then President Grant fought for Reconstruction, fought to give freed slaves opportunity. That was the first schools that were open. That was the first school choice schools that were open, actually, where slave children, freed slaves, were able to go to school. They actually got their own banking, own their own businesses, opened up black-owned banks, and that was during Reconstruction, just right after the Civil War. So in 2020, we certainly can do that now, and we can show people of different walks of life that the Republican Party is actually the party of hope and the party of freedom.
Do we, the American people, deserve to hear from Mr. Biden regarding Ukraine?
Nosotros, los americanos, Podemos escuchar de Mr. Biden sobre Ukraine.
Absolutely. I believe Joe Biden owes the American people an answer. You can't just hide and not answer these tough questions. If you're corrupt, your government will end up corrupt, which is exactly what, going back to President Grant, as you guys can see, President Grant is one of my favorite people in the United States. But President Grant was a great president. Without General Grant, we would have lost the Civil War and America would have been divided, and who knows where we would be today. But President Grant won that war as a general, leading the Union Army. However, his legacy was tainted. His legacy was tainted because his administration was corrupt. And because of their corruption and their self-dealing, it destroyed his legacy, it destroyed his presidency. And we, the people, deserve to know if Joe Biden is corrupt. He will lead us. He will be the leader of the free world if he wins. And the American people, before we vote, I repeat, before we vote, we, the American people, deserve to know what your dealings were with Ukraine, if you were self-dealing, if you were if your son was selling access to you. I don't care what political party you belong to, you should be demanding answers, because we can't have someone corrupt leading this country. So absolutely, Joe Biden owes the American people an answer. Explain yourself, Joe Biden. Thank you.
What is the first thing you want to do in Congress?
Qual é a primeira coisa que vocês vai fazer em Congresso?
One of the first things I want to do outside of legislation is reach over the aisle and say, look, I'm here, deal with it. We need to sit down and work together so that we can get this country moving forward. We need to get the economy back to moving forward after coronavirus. We need to figure out how we can help businesses. And we can't do that without working together. I'd like to sit down with the Congressional Black Caucus and see if they would reject my membership like they have with every other Republican, Black Republican, which are very few and far between, that I want a membership, because we need to stop putting all our eggs in one basket. We need to talk to the other side. There are a lot of Black Democrats in Congress. However, they're not reaching over the aisle. It's self-destruction. It's our destruction. And so first thing I'd like to do is reach out and try and be that bridge to bridge the two parties together and have sensibility and show them that we're willing to work across the aisle. So that way, those districts, those representatives who represent districts, their people will see. When we're reaching across the aisle as Republicans and we're saying, look, we need to work together for the common good of the people, and they slap our hand, they're going to have to answer to their district when it comes time for re-election. So that's one of the first things I want to do, is try and bridge this gap, get rid of the divisiveness and the troublemakers by shutting them out. And there's one thing that a lot of people don't see. There's 30 Black Republicans running for Congress. And I just joined and a new group that we formed, all the other 30 Republicans joined, we're 29 of us, is the Black Republicans for Congress. And with that, we win our races, we will actually have a block that will have some sway to be able to determine things like who's going to be the next Speaker of the House. And with that power, we're able to bring things together and make sure things get done. Otherwise, you're not getting our vote. And so there's 29 of us that formed a block that we're going to work together. And if we have to form our own group outside of the Black Congressional Caucus, that's what we're going to do. But we're going to make sure that we vote in a block to be able to sway and have a difference to make sure that people aren't just blocking things with their divisiveness. Thank you.
What is your favorite rock band?
Oh.
Qual é tua favorita rock band?
Do I have to pick one? Let's see. Okay, so it's between Third Eye Blind, Depeche Mode, and the Cranberries. But I'd have to say the Cranberries is my favorite rock band.
What is your opinion on the BLM movement?
My opinion on the BLM movement. Do you want the question?
Qual é a sua opinião sobre BLM movimento?
Well, my opinion on the BLM movement is that they have, it seems like the name would have good intentions. However, I believe that they are not a good organization that's good for America and good for Black America. I feel that they're divisive. They're not making progress. Like when the civil rights movement with Martin Luther King and all the other civil rights leaders, they marched in peace, nonviolence, and they used their voices. They used boycotts. And with that movement, they got a seat at the table. Their seat at the table was the Civil Rights Act of 1964. That gave us equal rights. That gave us school choice, gave us equal education. That gave us Brown versus the Board of Education, that to be enforced. But that was all done by nonviolence. I'm disappointed because BLM, they did protests, but they turned violent. And a lot of them, they turned violent because of, I'm gonna say it, an idea, AKA Antifa. Antifa was a violent organization that infiltrated BLM, hijacked it with funding from George Soros. And now we're stuck with an organization that does not have the best interest of the Black community in mind. They have the interest of dividing us and causing violence. So when President Trump went to Kenosha, Wisconsin, which is my home state, and wanted to sit down with BLM and to discuss what the issues are, they had a seat at the table and they slapped his hand and walked away. How does that help Black lives? That does not help Black lives. And I have not seen one protest from BLM protesting the countless numbers of Black children that are killed in the inner city every single day. By the time I finish this town hall meeting, there will be kids who have been killed in drive-by shootings, who have been shot, sleeping in their beds. There will be teenagers who were shot for no other reason but wearing the wrong color. This is what's going on in the Black community, and I would like to see if BLM take those issues up if Black lives really matter to them. Thank you.
Are you for medical freedom?
Usted es para liberdade de medicina?
Yes, I am. I believe your medical decisions are between an individual and their doctors, or a parent and the doctors. I don't feel that government has any right to be in the medical care of an individual. Individuals have rights. We are not a collective government where everybody makes a decision on people's individual freedoms, and I do believe on individual medical freedom. In regards to the vaccines, I know the question went a little deeper than that. In regards to the vaccine, I believe that that should be your choice. in regards to the COVID vaccine. Again, that's your medical freedom, and it's between you and your doctor. The government should absolutely stay out of the personal medical care of individuals. Thank you.
How will you accomplish anything green? Are you willing to commit to voting against your party, or is this another case of people getting tricked by rich people into voting against their interest?
Como usted vai hacer las cosas no Congreso como uma republicana? Usted vai hacer las cosas verdes? Usted irá se cometer para como que se vote against su party? ¿O es un otro caso de stupidity, donde las personas están rodeadas de las personas con dinero para votar solamente contra sus intereses?
Well, that's an interesting question, but it's an easy question to answer. First of all, my vote does not belong to a party. My vote belongs to California's 26th Congressional District. And if there is a bill or something that's presented that's going to not be favorable to CA 26, that's where my loyalties lie. My loyalties lie with the people who elected me. I'm their representative. This is their vote. So if it goes against the interest of CA 26, even if it means voting against my party, if they don't fix it, then yes, I will. I vote for my district, I vote for my conscience, I don't vote for my party. And I think if everyone in Congress actually did that, we would be a lot further than we are now. We actually would get things done. Number one, we'd have a stimulus bill that would help countless numbers of businesses and people right here in CA 26. But instead, representatives are voting the way their party tells them to vote. Nancy Pelosi controls CA 26's vote right now. Your current representative, Julia Brownlee, has voted 100% of the time with Nancy Pelosi. How is that possible? How do you vote 100% of the time with your boss? You just don't. This vote, Julia Brownlee's vote, belongs to CA 26, and she votes against our interest when she votes alongside Nancy Pelosi. She should have went to Nancy Pelosi and said, look, I understand you don't like our president. I understand you have beef. However, my district is suffering. My district needs help. We need this stimulus bill. Go fight for us. I'm going to be the one that goes and fights for you. And regardless if it's fighting against my own party, CA 26 will be my district, and they will be my priority, and their interest will come first.
Can you explain the California ballot propositions to some of the viewers that find their language confusing or misleading?
Usted pode explicar California ballot proposition para las personas que tienes confusão com su modo de hablar ou não se compreende?
Well, I would if we had about, 6 more hours. But they are very confusing. And what I will do for the person and anyone else who wants to know that asked that question, I will later do a separate video that interprets it and explains it. I know I'm an attorney, and I had to read them a couple of times. But I'll tell you one proposition that I know people are torn on, but my personal opinion, this is my personal opinion, it's not reflective of anyone else or the party, but my personal opinion on Prop 22 is that Uber and Lyft left us behind. Uber and Lyft created the problem with AB 5, and they paid their lobbyists to get Prop 22, which will exempt them. But what about everyone else in California? What about the freelance writers? What about the the freelance hairstylists? What about the people who do freelance work on the movie studios? What about those freelance people who want to be independent contractors? What happens to them? Does AB 5 still applies to them? I think that if you wanted to get rid of AB 5, it should have been for everyone and not just for Uber and Lyft. And yes, I'm calling out the special interest group that spent millions and millions of dollars to get that prop on the ballot and left the everyday common people behind. That's my personal opinion on Prop 22.
What would you specifically do as a U.S. House representative to encourage and enable businesses to remain and thrive, not only in our state, but in our county?
O que você vai fazer especificamente para encorajar, para que os comércios tenham coragem de continuar abertos no nosso estado, como que no nosso país também?
What I would do is first to make the state, and especially Ventura County, more business friendly. Right now, California is the most un-business friendly state. I mean, we can't give space away here in California to get businesses to move here. Everyone's like, are you crazy, California? And when I travel and I go other places and I say, hey, I'm running for Congress in California, you know, people look at me like, oh, like they feel sorry for me because I'm in California. Like, no, it's really a beautiful state. We just got to get rid of the bad policies. So what I would do is start by working with Sacramento to try and make California as a whole more business friendly by giving incentives and loosening some of the restrictions that we have on California businesses and people that want to come here. Secondly, I would actually, in regards to Ventura County, I would actually go and recruit businesses to move here, because even within the counties we have different tax structures, and Ventura County has a lower tax structure than, say, LA County. That's why a lot of people who live in Ventura County, we know that we don't go to the Costco in Westlake. We'll drive to the Costco in Simi Valley when we want to make a big purchase because the tax is different. So that little savings, people actually drive to our county to buy things because it's a little bit cheaper because of the taxes. So what I would do is I would use that incentive to recruit businesses here to come to Ventura County. And I've said this before, and I'm sorry if some of you have heard it already, but my goal is to recruit SpaceX to Ventura County. We have the space for them. They want to expand. They're looking at expanding in Texas. But if I'm elected, the first thing I'm going to do is try and contact Elon Musk and get him to consider expanding out here to SpaceX. I mean, we're right next door. We have, you know, the Navy bases. We have room there for them. They do a lot of contracting. There's actually a multi-billion-dollar contract that was just announced. They're seeking people to go to the moon, to mine the moon for a future moon base. Who do you think's going to get that contract? Do you think SpaceX is going to get it? Probably. Those are high-paying, high-skilled jobs that we can bring right here to Ventura County. Those are jobs for our kids. Those are jobs for when they graduate from college, they can go right into it. We can start some type of mentoring program with SpaceX to develop those skills and get internships. There's a lot of things we can do with businesses that will here in Ventura County that will actually grow the jobs and also grow the skills, so that our children aren't forced to leave the state and take our grandchildren and our future grandchildren with them, because that's what's happening, because California is unaffordable and there's no jobs available to help them pay those high bills in California. So that's what I would do. Thank you.
How do you plan to help reduce the overall cost of living in California to where over half their income goes to the government and the rest to essentials?
Como você pensa em ajudar para reduzir o custo de la vida em California, donde como que la metade de todo o que ganhamos va para o governo e o resto para a nossa vida.
Well, that goes back to some of the other things that I was saying about reducing the regulations and getting high-paying, high-skilled jobs here in Ventura County. So there's a domino effect that I don't think a lot of politicians understand because they don't really live in the real world. So let me explain the real world to our current representative. When businesses are charged more money, when businesses are charged more taxes, businesses have to make up that money somewhere. Contrary to what a lot of representatives think, including my opponent, just because you're a corporation does not mean that you're rich and you're wealthy. A corporation is an organization that the articles of incorporation are filed with your Secretary of State, whatever state you're in. Just because you file an articles of corporation does not mean you're a corporation, you're all of a sudden evil, and you have a bunch of money. It's not how it works. So if you tax and overregulate the businesses, let's say you have 10 employees, but now there's taxes and overregulations, and to be able to make your payroll, which yes, there's payroll because you have payroll taxes, you have, you also have your work comp and all of those expenses that goes along with being an employer. And yes, you're incorporated because you protect yourself from liability. There's nothing wrong with that. But if you have 10 employees and after you pay all those taxes and then they raise them again, maybe you said, well, I can't afford 10 employees. I can only afford 5 employees with all of the money, extra money that I have to pay. Guess what happens to those 5 people? They don't have a job. That's the domino effect. You raise when you're overregulated and your taxes are high, you can't employ as many people, which means your unemployment rate goes up. That's just simple basic. I asked my 7-year-old that and explained it to him, and they got it. I don't understand why Congress and our elected officials can't get it. So that's the first thing I would do, is try to reduce and loosen those regulations so that businesses can afford to hire more people and not lay off people. We've already lost a considerable amount of jobs because of the closures of the businesses. Like, some businesses are not going to recover. I've said that before. I hate to be redundant. However, I think it's very important that we understand that there's a high unemployment rate right now because of the closures of the businesses, and the businesses that are still are deemed non-essential and not in their little orange or red category to open. So, thank you.
What do you plan to do to elevate the level of debate and dialogue within all parties?
Como você pensa em se debater com os outros de todas as partes?
What number is that? No, you skipped number.
Como que é lo mesmo? It's the same. It's the same, he said.
No, it's not. It's different. Here, I'll read it. How do you plan to help make homes more affordable, where current residents cost less than half as much as other states? There are many people living paycheck to paycheck, if they have one now, barely able to pay rent, let alone realistically qualify for mortgages and resulting cheaper payments, especially if their reserves are gone and their credit is dinged after the months of lockdown. Too many have lost everything due to nonsensical state policies and politics, orders masquerading as laws. That's a very good question, because that's something that I've actually been working on before coronavirus hit. I actually had an opportunity to speak with Secretary Ben Carson about this, but I'm proposing that there are home loans from FHA home loans, which are federally backed loans, that we do that based on rental history and not your credit score. And that way, that would give more people an opportunity to buy a home using an FHA loan, and also will give opportunities for them to purchase a home, as well as when you have a mortgage, it's less than rent. It's sometimes 2 or 3 times less than rent, and therefore having own home ownership is more affordable. And you have something that you're vested into. You're vested into your neighborhood. You're vested into your community. You have something that you could pass down to your children, and start that generational wealth. Maybe you start with one house, and then you're able to build that up, and you're able to get another one. Maybe start your retirement as having rental properties. So that's my idea to help things get housing more affordable by increasing home ownership. Thank you.
What do you plan to do to elevate the level of debate and dialogue with all parties?
Well, like I said, we need to reach across the aisle and talk to each other. Doesn't matter what our personal or political differences are. Our founding fathers did it. Our founding fathers did it for the benefit of the future America. We all know the rivalry between John Adams and Thomas Jefferson, but yet they came together and made decisions that created America today. George Washington had a lot of people that did not like him. And he actually was not a perfect man in the beginning. He lost a lot of battles when he was a lieutenant in the Continental Army when he was with the British. But now he's like the great general who won the Revolutionary War, and we're here today. But because he put his differences aside, he put his ego aside. You have to think that all our founding fathers had egos. They came from individual territories where they were all separate, and they were leaders in their individual territories. They put their egos aside, they put their differences aside, they worked together, and that's why we're America today. That's what our current Congress needs to do. They need to put their differences aside and stop having these petty little fights and these differences. This isn't high school. This is Congress. This is our government. These are people's lives. It's a matter of life and death for us, everyday Americans. We're not politicians. We don't get huge pensions and huge paychecks so that we can just hold off. Of course you can hold off. But I bet if Congress starts withholding their own paychecks and until a stimulus bill is passed, I guarantee you we'd have one tomorrow. Thank you.
What is your take on cancel culture and the intolerance of differing views, and how do we combat it as a nation?
Get over it. You may not like it, but we're all different. So if you don't like it, then guess what? Turn your TV off. Turn your radio off. Don't read the magazine. Don't look at it. You can't censor the rest of America based on your own personal views. We have a First Amendment. We have a Constitution. There's many things that I don't like. How about, if you start saying, hey, we're gonna ban the color red because I just don't like red. We need to cancel it. We're gonna cancel blue too, because you know what? That represents gang mentality. Those are Bloods and Crips. We're gonna cancel those colors. It's absolutely ridiculous. And I can say one example, when after George Floyd, and they were talking about canceling Paw Patrol, my 7 years old, my triplets, had an absolute fit. They couldn't understand it. They're kids. They're like, what? That's stupid. Paw Patrol, we like the police. The police are nice. They save us. Why do they what's wrong with Paw Patrol? Chad is nice. I'm like, yeah, I know. So sometimes you have kids who have more common sense than adults. We can't go around canceling everything that you don't like. We have a Constitution. And when you start with something small, and actually, I'm sure a lot of people don't watch or listen or read any type of of pornography or anything of that sort. But there is a Supreme Court case that says it's free speech. Whether we agree with it or not, it's free speech. And if you start with that, where are you going to end up with? We don't like the Bible because there's violence in the Bible. We're going to cancel the Bible. We're gonna cancel, any other free speech or any publications. All speech has to be protected. All speech has to be protected because it's the First Amendment. It's the Constitution, and that is the number one thing to preserve, regardless of our personal feelings, regardless of our personal beliefs. Those are personal. You can't enforce those on the rest of America. So I think cancel culture needs to be canceled. Thank you.
What would you do about the big tech censorship silencing the voices and information of those who don't share the same politics or world views? At some point, objective truth and freedom needs to win the day, and those trying to silence those they disagree with instead of fairly debate need to be held to account. Censorship should not and cannot stand within our public discourse.
Well, big tech. I think they're taking care of themselves because they stepped in it now. Now they have Congress after them. And I'm like, they pushed and they pushed and they pushed. And now they're about to lose their protections because they went beyond their scope of, they're just a platform. They're not a platform anymore. And so I think Congress should do exactly what they're doing. And when I'm elected, I'm going to be right there with them because it's kind of, I'm going to say that word again, corrupt when you claim to be a neutral party and just a platform, but you actively donate to one party, and then you actively use your platform to censor people who are in opposition of the one party that you give millions and millions and millions of dollars to. That is not just an innocent third party anymore. You are involved in politics, and it's absolutely corrupt. So they finally pushed and did it. And now they got Congress after them. And I'm going to sit back and wait and hope to join in January to go after them. Lastly, I've said this before, Facebook, you are a publicly traded company. What you're doing is reducing the value of your shares. You have a duty of loyalty. You have a duty of care. You have a fiduciary duty. For officers and directors have those duties on their shareholders. And their shareholders are losing money because they're reducing the value of their shares. I think anyone who owns Facebook stock shall file a shareholders derivative action against Facebook for breach of duty of care. The officers and directors, that means all officers and directors, including your CEO, your president, your vice president, and all of your boards of your board of directors. So be very, very careful, Facebook, because if I wasn't running for Congress, I'd be filing a derivative action against Facebook. That's what we could do. Thank you.
The federal debt has now gone past 100% of GDP, and the 2020 deficit was a staggering $3.1 trillion, 15% of GDP. This level of debt created a severe economic crisis for Greece and Spain a few years ago. What do you propose be done to get the debt under control?
Well, that was a mouthful. Yes, please. Oh, did you read it? Yes.
Lo débito federal está como que passado 100% do GDP. E em 2020, o déficit está como que 31 ou 15 de GDP. Este level está criando uma severa crise. O que você pode fazer para tomar o controle de tudo isso?
well, get the debt under control. Let me see this. See, I have not reviewed these questions prior to coming here today. Well, the first thing the United States needs to do is cut its spending. There's a lot of waste. There's a lot of government waste, and and a lot of duplicative programs. There's a lot of duplicative work that the federal government does. They're very inefficient. I mean, it's a common joke about how inefficient the federal government really is. My husband works for the federal government. Trust me, it's very inefficient. They do the same things 3 and 4 times and pass it off to other people 3 and 4 times, and then they just sit there and wait for someone to get back to them, and then they end up having to do the same thing again. Their computer systems are so old, and that they spend a majority of their time trying to fix their system. But first we need to start at home. We need to start with running the federal government efficient with all the various departments in that. And we don't need 3 different departments to do the same thing. We can consolidate that into one department, one organization that handles those duties, and that will cut the budget and save money. Secondly, I've said this before, and I'm not going to earn very many friends in Congress, but I think Congress should take a pay cut. I think they should give up their cushiony retirement and their cushiony health plan and go on the Affordable Care Act like everybody else, since it's so great and dandy. Why don't they have it? Why do they have their own special plan, but they want us to have the affordable health care? So that would save a lot of money. Also, I think there should be, Congress, I know they'll be going against their own interests, but I think that's a conflict when Congress enacts the laws and they get to approve their own pay increase, which they constantly do, because AOC, the first thing she said when she got to office and was elected was, Congress needs a pay raise. Well, she's living. Have you guys seen where AOC lives? She has a 24-hour concierge service. She doesn't even do her own laundry. She has 24-hour concierge service behind a nice townhouse, gated townhouse building. So, you know, that's the way Congress is living. There's people in their districts who can't even pay their rent, can't pay their bills, but they're getting a pay raise. So I think we can start by that, cutting the fat. Also, Congress needs to stop passing unconstitutional laws. When they pass unconstitutional laws, those laws get challenged. Who pays the bill? We pay the bill. We pay the legal bills, especially when states file lawsuits against the federal government, and federal government has to file lawsuits against the state. We, the taxpayers, get both sides of the bill. We get the state bill and we get the federal tax bill as well, because we're the ones that's paying all of the legal salaries. We're paying all the legal fees. Also, we can stop bailing out states who mismanage their budget. One of the reasons why the stimulus bill is being held up is because Nancy Pelosi wants to give billions of dollars to states who had a deficit prior to coronavirus, and they mismanage their money. We need to stop bailing out states who mismanage their money. They need to work within the confines of their own budget and stop looking for the federal government to bail them out of their own mess. Because what we've become is we've become their parents. Federal government and the taxpayers have become the parents of states, and they always ask for their allowance when they overspend and they want more money. I think that's one of the ways that we can cut the budget and the deficit as well. Thank you.
Nosotros recebemos esta pregunta sobre las escuelas.
How do we get our local high school students back to school?
Well, we can start by electing me to Congress so that I can have a conversation with the states and fight to help get the schools back open, because other schools are open, charter schools are open, private schools are open, but yet the public schools are not open. And also, what we should do is we should take the money budget from the school and give that to the parents. If they cut their budget by taking the money and doling it out to the parents who are actually at home teaching the kids, who's actually at home having to buy laptops and using part of their house as their classroom, that money should go to the parents. Each parent should be allotted X amount of dollars for each child that they have at home. That will be able to help them with childcare. They may even be able to hire a tutor so that those parents can go to work. So I bet if we start taking money from the school districts and giving it to the parents, they'll quickly get back to school and say, oh, we can open now, because they're not going to be getting that money. The money should go to the parents. Board meeting was last night. CVUSD, elementary schools opening 11/9 during high school. High school schools open January 19th. Well, that's what they say. We'll see what happens. They'll probably say that there's more spikes in coronavirus and we have to close down for another 3 months, because according to my opponent in our debate on the 13th, she feels that it may be another 6 to 8 months before we can safely open. That's terrifying. Okay, we have some questions from the audience. Hi, you could say your name if you like, or if you just want to ask your question, it's okay.
Hi, Rhonda. My name is John.
Hi, John. Thanks for coming.
Thank you. And thanks for answering these questions.
Absolutely.
For us. My question to you is, what will you do, if elected, to control the wildfires in California?
Okay, good question. Well, when I'm elected, I will start by clearing the forest floors, getting rid of the fuel that fuels these fires. I know that that's not a very popular solution because, you know, of the environmental impacts, but I don't think clearing the forest floors and saving lives and homes would have the balance would be lives and homes, and I think we can safely do that without disturbing the environment too much. Also, I propose to have 3 federally funded helicopters that could be used for fire rescue and the police in emergency bases that would be able to help with fighting the wildfires and evacuating and getting people out to safety. Thank you.
Hi, Rhonda. My name is John.
Hi, John.
Hey, so my question also involves corruption.
Yes.
If elected to Congress, what steps would you take to ensure that your family members and others close to you do not take advantage of that relationship to exploit the fact that you're a congressperson?
Well, one, I don't think any of my kids would they don't want to be anywhere near. They don't want to be anywhere near Congress. They hide and dodge. But one of the things is the way I've raised my children. They know that it's about hard work, and it's about doing things on your own merit. My oldest, he's 29 now. He's the youngest. He was the youngest superintendent for a large gas company, I won't say the name, and he branched off and started his own company. He's 29 years old today. That company is worth about $9 million. That was his hard work. And when he was little, he was a terror. I was like that kid. But it was my hard work, it was my discipline that created the young man I have today. And one of the things was, he was 13 years old, he paid rent. And how he would pay rent is taking out the garbage was X amount of dollars, cleaning the kitchen was X amount of dollars. Each chore had a dollar amount. And at the end of the month, he better have his rent. And the one time that he didn't have his rent, I evicted him from his room. I took his door off and he had to sleep on the couch, and best to believe he did a bunch of chores so that he can get back in his room. But that taught him that that's the way life is. You have to work. You have to contribute. And that's why my kids are the way they are today, and I I don't. They would never do that. They don't use me now as an attorney. They deal with their own problems. And that's my youngest from my first three, my 29-year-old, 26-year-old, and then my 23-year-old, and then I have the 7-year-old triplets. And she doesn't want to have anything.
Hi. Is that it? Okay.
That's it. Pilot Mike's the one that put you on the spot. I didn't do it. Okay. Hi, come on.
Hi, my name's Tom.
Hi, Tom.
Nice to be here. Thanks for coming out and not
Thanks for
hiding in
coming.
the basement. It's nice. So I'm going to start off with a little humor.
Okay.
So that's my background. So I'm going to ask you a really profound question
Sure.
that
Let's shoot.
all the media want to know. What's your favorite ice cream?
Butter pecan.
That's okay.
I was going to make my husband answer, but butter pecan.
Okay, a profound question to most Californians. What's your horoscope? No,
I'm a first day Capricorn, and the triplets are last day Sagittarius.
Uh-oh.
Yes.
Uh-oh. Okay. So, for a serious thing, and I'm going to tell you a secret at the end of this.
Okay.
You might not be so receptive to me. I'm a former educator.
Mm-hmm.
Went back to and got an education, similar legal backgrounds.
Yes.
A restaurateur, a lot of different things. California is very anti-business.
Yes.
I won't go into stories of personal battles, but anyway, the question I have, and this is a very, very serious, profound question as an educator. If you study as a historian, which you sound like you have a love of history, I used to teach history and government in inner city high school in Dallas,
Oh,
Texas.
I love it.
And I did too. And try to help people get out of that bad environment. And there were
Yes.
some great kids, great experience. I've studied history a fair amount because I taught it. And Karl Marx, Adolf Hitler, all these really bad people in the world, evil people I call them,
Yes.
all are doing very much what I see happening with our media today, the internet, web. Companies are getting in on it. It's a collusion to cut off free speech, and it's a very upsetting. I love our country. I love God. I love our country. I love family and my friends, and it's very upsetting. I'm very concerned because I did without TV for 3.5 years because of all the propaganda. Is what it basically is. Adolf Hitler, Karl Marx, Saul Lewinsky. It's all written, and
Yeah.
it's a very powerful. People aren't even aware of what's happening. But when you don't hear the truth regularly, and this person's all evil, 100% all evil, it's scary. And now the media websites are getting on it, and our country is really in danger of losing our freedoms.
Yes.
And we're getting brainwashed, and I'm concerned for it. So
Yes.
what can we do? You did answer about the internet site, but what
Yes.
can we do to wake people up and try to bring normalization? The word hate is thrown around every day by people that are really the haters. As I see it.
Yeah.
And
Haters
the
are gonna
people over
hate.
here who are supposed to be the haters, according to these people over here,
Yeah.
I don't hear them saying evil, bad, nasty things about anybody.
Well, unfortunately, and our founding fathers have said it throughout their quotes, people are just inherently, there's some inherently evil people. And until something happens to them. So if you notice the shift from people who said that they would never vote for Donald Trump, or people who said they would never vote Republican or do anything support the Republican Party, until they looked at what their own party was doing. When they looked at that, and I'm not going to say all Democrats, because we're all Americans. They're all not evil, but there is a certain group of Democrats who have been chipping away and attacking the Constitution, which is going through free speech, and using divisiveness and creating hatred amongst the people to divide us. Because I'm going to say it. What's the divide and conquer, which is what they're doing. However, when things start affecting people personally, they stop and say, "Wait a minute! Now it's it's me now. I mean, I was okay when they went after this person. And then that person was like, oh, I was okay when they went after this person. I went after this, but now they're going after me. And so then they wake up and they're like, well, I can't vote for this person. This is what they're doing to us. And so unfortunately, there's going to take, just like this didn't happen overnight, this took time to get to where we are now, because a lot of us slept through it until it got this bad and we're like, wait a minute, what happened? Well, it's been happening, but nobody stood up. There's only a few of us that stood up. Now it's like, now when we're locked in our houses, they closed the gun stores, taking away our Second Amendment. They're infringing on our First Amendment. When now that we see these things, now we're outraged, but we should have been outraged 10 years ago. And so now it's going to have to go through that cycle where people are just going to have to start waking up. So even the people prior to coronavirus, there's a lot of people who were on the other side. And then after coronavirus, they're like, I can't believe they did this. Like, well, that's what we've been saying for like ever. And so then they switch and they wake up. They may not change their party, but they're going to vote their interest. And so unfortunately, we have to wait for more people to wake up. But they're waking up.
Prayerfully, they will by November 3rd.
Oh no, I think enough of us have woken up because we're tired of the divisiveness. Nothing gets done, and that's not what our founding fathers meant.
It's a bad
intended
example
for.
to set for our children. This
Exactly.
hatred thing, it's just got to stop.
Yeah.
And the secret I want to share with you.
Sure.
I'm a former Democrat. I'm
Yes.
part liberal, I'm part conservative, and a little bit moderate, Neapolitan flavor.
Yes.
And I've already voted for you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hello, Rhonda.
Hi.
My name is Edgar Castellanos.
Hi,
I'm
Edward.
a founder of Bear Arms Gun Club for Ventura County.
Yes.
I've been seeing your name pretty much everywhere, especially all gun stores.
Yes.
My question to you is, what is your view with the Second Amendment, and what will you do to strengthen it in a district with weak Second Amendment leadership?
Okay. Well, the first thing I can say is when the gun stores were deemed non-essential, I'm sure you know that already. Okay, so that's the first. That's what I do. I'll fight it in the courtroom, and I'll fight it in Congress just like I'm fighting in the courtroom for your Second Amendment right. I am a constitutionalist. I will always follow the Constitution. The Constitution and the Supreme Court says that there are individual rights. McDonald and McDaniels is their individual rights. Lastly, the gun case that I did file, right. That case will likely end up in the Supreme Court. Mm-hmm. So the Supreme Court can definitively answer, does a state or does the government have the right to completely close gun stores and declare them non-essential during any time of, a crisis? Right. And so that will be, that will set, the precedent. That will be, the Supreme Court will rule that no other state, no other government in any United States jurisdiction can take your Second Amendment right away by closing gun stores, so you have no way of buying a gun. Because I'm sure you know the gun laws. You can't go anywhere else and buy a gun. Why? Because you got to transfer through an FFL. Yeah. You can't go to another state because it has to be transferred to an FFL. You got to go through the background check. Where do you go through that at an FFL? So if they close the gun stores, how do you buy a gun? Yeah. You can't. It was essentially a banning, right? Yeah. So that's what I would do. I would continue to fight for the Second Amendment, not just the Second Amendment, but the entire Constitution. Mm-hmm. Because whether you have a personal belief or not, which I do, my in-laws were arms dealers, but if somebody doesn't feel comfortable with guns, they don't like guns, that's their preference. Yeah. That's your right. You don't have to have a gun. Mm-hmm. But the Second Amendment is there so that if you want one, you can have one, because it's your individual right. So it's not about our feelings, it's about the Constitution. Yeah. And I will always protect and defend the Constitution, every amendment there.
One quick question.
Sure, go ahead.
AR-15s.
Yes.
I was in the military. I used an M4. I'm used to it. If something came to be, that'd be the firearm I choose to defend myself or my family. I truly believe that we should be able to keep them as they were designed as well. Detachable magazines, 30 round mags. They're called high capacity in California. To me, they're just standard. And I feel like that firearm at this moment is like probably at its last, and it's probably gonna go away. And if it does, for myself, I feel like I have no choice but to leave and go back to Texas. I was born in California, stationed in Texas. I love Texas, but I'm also a fisherman, so I want to stay here.
Right.
You know, so what do you feel about the AR-15?
Well, I feel that that's about to be determined in the courts as well. And so I believe in the Second Amendment. I don't believe in, I don't think the AR-15 is any more deadly or dangerous than any other firearm.
Right.
And we do know that the Constitution is in place to protect us against the government. And, restricting firearms of the citizens is loosening that protection that we have from the government. So I think that the Supreme Court's going to rule, and I know just went through the Ninth Circuit right now, but I think they're going to rule, and it's going to be found to be unconstitutional.
I hope it does.
Yes, and then the legislators have no say after that. The Supreme Court is it.
Hopefully, yeah.
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Yep.
God bless, and I voted for you as well already.
Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Hi, Rhonda.
Hello.
My name's David.
Hi, David.
And, the liberal left has been successful at creating the false narrative that conservatives do not care about the environment. And we have an environmental issue in Ventura County, in our district, that is a pretty significant environmental issue, but yet because of the lack of leadership on a federal level, it's not been addressed adequately. And that is the issue with the Matilaha Dam. The Matilaha Dam was built in the 40s as a flood control basin. And what it did is it blocked off the Ventura River. The dam has been derelict for many, many years. And in the process of the dam being there, what it's done is it's killed the steelhead trout fishery, which the trout fishery on the Ventura River was one of the most significant steelhead trout fisheries in the United States. That my dad told me, he was born and raised in Ventura. He told me that river during the Depression kept many families alive in Ventura because they fed their families with the fishery. So the removal of that dam, which the dam serves no purpose now, the basin's full of silt, it's all silted up and it serves no purpose. But the removal of the dam is profoundly expensive. As our representative, what thoughts do you have with respect to looking into that issue and seeing what we can do to restore that river so that maybe my grandkids can fish steelhead trout? It's too late for me or my kids, but it is a tragedy for those fish to be on the endangered species list because of this derelict dam that sits there, and it's just an issue of not having federal support to remove that dam. There's a lot of public money, but the cost is so staggering we can't do it without federal help. What thoughts do you have on that and looking into that issue? Because for people to think that conservatives do not care about the environment is just an outright lie.
It is. Of course I care about the environment. I have children. I have grandchildren. I need them us to leave them a planet and an environment that they can enjoy and a healthy environment. So yeah, that's just a myth that we don't care about the environment. I would definitely look into that. Being from Wisconsin, I fish. I love fishing. My mom always wants to, go fishing as well, because that's what I grew up doing is throwing my line in there with my barber when I was little and catching my bluegills and crappies in the lakes, because we have plenty of them in Wisconsin. So that's definitely something that I would look into to see how we can get that done. I mean, they're basically causing the steelhead trout to be extinct.
So the dam has eliminated the ability for the fish to go upstream to spawn. And
So they're not able to reproduce.
Right, so there's less than, the estimates are that there's less than 500 fish left. It is on the verge of extinction. And
Do you know what the cost is for that? Has any representative ever looked into it?
there are some lengthy studies, and it's in the high tens of millions.
High tens of millions. So high tens of millions, like, I don't know, $80 million? Okay, $80 million. Okay.
But there's a lot of public money through, there's a lot of.
How much would the government have to supplement?
Off the top of my head, I do not know.
But you think the total price is about $80 million?
Yes. The problem is that if they remove the dam, then the silt runs downstream, so they have to go all the way down to the ocean and deal with property owners that are going to be negatively impacted, and that's where the cost comes in. It's a ripple effect, but the cost of not dealing with it is staggering as well.
And so the steelhead trout are just the ones in that.
They're specific to that river.
They're specific to. They're nowhere else.
That particular strain of steelhead trout is specific to that river.
And they haven't preserved any or moved any?
No, they've not been successful in doing that.
Wow.
That steelhead trout, strain of steelhead trout is on the verge of extinction. It's critically on the verge of extinction.
Well, that's something I definitely will look into. Nicolette, can you take a note, please? Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Sure, thank you.
Hello, and God bless you.
Hi, God bless you as well.
My name is Louis.
Hi, Louis.
And I have two questions for you,
Sure.
if I may. The first one is the Hispanic community has been falling into this web of lies
Okay.
from the left.
Okay.
And it's, the reason is simple, because in Spanish, you don't have anything, you only have a Democratic or the left media always, they dominate. Okay, and if you try to do something, if you try to call to them, which I do every day, different TV shows and stuff like that, and they already banned me from many, so I keep calling from my wife's name, my daughter's phone number.
They ban you?
Well, yeah, because every time I call, they already call me. As soon as I say something, let's just say in favor, not just from the Republican Party, but from a conservative viewpoint, they label me as a racist and bigot. So after I come into the show, what they do is they said, "Oh, the guy who just called, he's a racist." They don't know nothing about me, but they start attacking my character. Which what I do, I call back with a different name, and I said, "Well, let's go ahead and set up a debate, right?
Right.
Debate, and then talk about this." So, anyways, that's my thing. So, my question is about the Hispanic community. What are you doing as far as trying to reach the Hispanic vote? Do you have a campaign going in Spanish?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. We reach out to the Spanish community.
Okay.
We have, Spanish materials and that, and we're also going to be advertising on the Latino stations, but probably some of the ones that you're
I saw
calling.
the boxing one.
You saw the boxing one?
I like it.
I
love
like
it.
boxing, yeah.
I love it.
So we're reaching out to the community, but like you said, there's a lot of misinformation out there. As soon as you have an R behind your name, you're labeled a racist. The reason why I giggled when they called you a racist is because as a black woman, I get called the same thing, and it's funny that it's mostly white liberals for me that call me a racist, and I'm like, did you read history books? I don't understand, like, really. So it's like whenever you don't have the same agreement or you don't have the same political views, you're all of a sudden a racist. But I'm sorry, but why is wanting equal protection, wanting equal opportunity, how is that racist? Like right now in Ventura County, like President Trump created the opportunity zones. Who cares? If you don't like the president, Who cares? He created opportunity zones in this district. So your current representative does not take advantage of those districts. They're in minority and underprivileged areas of the city. So why wouldn't you utilize that and encourage people to, get that money, open those businesses, to get take advantage of the program, regardless of your personal feelings about the president. This is something that will help your underprivileged minority community in your district, and she's not utilizing it. And so, you have to talk the truth when you say, and that's why I talk to people first, and we kind of have an advantage because when we talk to people about politics, they automatically assume because I'm black,
You're from the left.
I'm from the left, and because you're Latino, you're from the
Same
left.
thing.
So when you talk to them about opportunities and this happened and that happened, you can do this, you could do that, you build that bond. And then when you say, they ask you, well, what party are you in? Where do you run? I'm a Republican. Then it's like, oh, but you already got them. They like you already.
Correct.
If you say, oh, I'm a Republican, they're just like turned off, mine's off. Nope, your racists don't like you. And so if you start talk to the Latino community about different things, about different programs, what the right is doing, without saying this is what Republicans are doing, they're automatically assuming. If you say opportunity zone, you can get a business right here, you can get a loan, blah, blah, blah. They're going to be like, oh, that's probably something Nancy Pelosi did. No, that's something President Trump did. You can take advantage of it. The First Step Act. I mean, there's, and then also what I did was, I didn't have time to do it this year because of COVID, but I offer free immigration seminars in Oxnard.
You said that.
Yeah, I do free immigration seminars in Oxnard because a lot of the Latino community was scared from they use fear for SB 54.
Right.
Without telling them, and I would educate, like, no, if you're a victim of a crime or you're a witness to a crime, you could apply for a U visa and you could actually get legal status. So you want to report this stuff, but they say, oh, we passed SB 54 because the Latino community, if they're illegal, they're scared to report it to the police. And I'm like, that's not true. Why don't you educate and tell them about the U visa? Hey, if you're a victim of a crime, you can have protected status, apply for a U visa. And so I educate about immigration, how to get legal status, because as long as they keep the Latino community in fear, they're going to keep going with them because they're running to them for protection, but they're hurting them. It's like, help them. There's ways that you can become a citizen or you can get legal status. Help them get legal status, but once they get legal status, they're not useful anymore to them because a lot of times, the Latino community, like the Black community, most our values and what we believe in goes right down, the conservative line.
Correct.
And they would really be on this side.
Right.
It had not be for the fear that they put it. And I think it's disgusting. It's like the battered woman syndrome, where the abusive husband keeps the woman at home and says, what are you going to do? You've never worked before. You can't get a job. I take care of you. And that's exactly what they do to people.
That's right.
Yep.
And two things you said. Number one, you said they don't educate them. And at the beginning, I started the question by saying that there's only news for the left, and they all preach the same thing over and over and over.
Yeah.
So they end up believing that lie. And the other question has to do with you said opportunities that Mr. Trump, he already put in place programs, but like you said, people who can, they don't take advantage of them.
Right.
And which leads to my next question.
Sure.
I run a gym or two gyms, boxing gyms, and we don't charge. We don't charge. It's a nonprofit. We do not have a nonprofit status. I just don't charge. And whoever wants to come, all the kids, and then we help them with the homework and everything. And we, provide the hand wraps and the mouthpieces, everything we can. We don't charge anything. And a lot of them, which by the way, 18 of them already voted for you.
Oh, thank you.
anyways, just so you know, they know you as Ronda Rousey. Which,
I love it. Yes.
Funny thing, she's very she's kind of leftist. But anyway, they said no, different Ronda. So what I'm trying to say is that would they be not if elected, but once elected?
Yes.
Would you have anything in place for having like? Let me just give you an example. What I'm talking about. There's no PAL here. Police activity leagues in Thousand Oaks, Simi Valley, or Moore Park. There's one in Oxnard. There's not in Ventura, Santa Barbara. Only Oxnard has it, and it's through the police department. It's called Police Activity. You probably heard of it. Police Activity Leagues, and kind of like a boys club, boys club.
Boys and Girls Club, yeah.
Right. So, but I tried to open up a chapter here, but they said that you can't do that because there's a lot of money in it, involved in it, because you have to have a big place, because they're not going to do only for boxing. They do it in bundle, like they do volleyball, basketball, and all of that stuff. Boxing is just one part of it. And then I told them, I said, well, can we just do one for boxing? I've been doing this, helping kids for years, and I don't charge a dime.
Right.
So they just said, no, most of the time they don't even know what I'm talking about. They don't know what PAL is, Police Activity Leagues, they don't know what that is. I even go to the police department and they don't know what that is. So talking about their resources, and if president, sends money for certain programs, would you be interested, once elected, to, not if, but once elected, let's speak by faith here. Would you be interested on having a PAL, Police Activity League, here on this area to cover Simi, Thousand Oaks, and Moore Park?
Absolutely. I mean, I won't consider it. I'll go get you the money. There should be, there's grant money, there's federal money, that this is, and thinking about the current state of the relationship between the police and the community, this is something that will help bridge that gap too, and heal between the police and the community, because I've always said that we need community leaders to bridge that gap. And I think that's an amazing idea, and I think, I will absolutely, I will say this, when I'm elected, I'm gonna go get you money. I'm gonna get you grant money.
I like that one part right
yes,
there.
Yes, you gotta get your nonprofit status. That's what we'll work on. And because there's grant money that's already allocated for these types of activities.
Okay.
We just have to find it and find the one that fits and get that money to you. But that's
right, okay.
That's something that I'm saying it right now,
thank you.
that I promise I will go get that money for you once I'm elected. Yes.
Last thing, it's there's I don't know if you're from this area really close. My brother's close in. Sorry, brother. I'm like, no, I apologize.
I'll forget him.
So, okay.
I tell him what to do.
Okay. There's a gang here in Thousand Oaks. It's called Tocas Tres. It's been here for a long time.
Yeah.
I pretty much was not raised here, but I came here when I was 16, and I've always been a boxer. And I know they've been always trying to get me to join their gang, which I never did. So half of my kids, I call them my kids, my boxers, they're ex-gang members. So, and a lot of them are people who work, some even kids were involved in drugs and everything like that. So we're impacting the community on that area. So it's not just about get them off their cell phone and come in.
Because if they don't have anywhere to go constructive, they're going to be in the gangs causing mischief, and that's why that's why the Boys and Girls Club was so successful.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yes.
So I just wanted to add that to it. And
which reduces crime. I mean, when people get that, they're not out snatching purses; they're in a gym somewhere.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah, I see them in court all the time.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. There you go. So yeah, those were my questions. Thank you very much, and God bless you.
Thank you, and thanks for those votes.
One more question just came in.
Oh, okay.
One more question just came in. Thank you.
Do you think a 2-year term limit is long enough to accomplish anything in Congress? How about a 4-year term limit for Congress?
Well, right now, Congress has a lifetime term limit because nobody retires. They die in office. I think there should be term limits, like you limit the number of terms you can serve and then get fresh ideas in. That's why we never get anything done. So I think 2 years is absolutely enough time to get things done if Congress would actually work to get things done and not as soon as they get in office, they're working on re-election and they're only worried about their own careers. It's called public service, not self-service. Thank you. Our last question. Yay. Let's see.
Next town hall is next Wednesday.
Yes. Next town hall is next Wednesday at 7 p.m. We'll have that one. We like to get that one in Oxnard. We will have a location posted on our website. I want to thank you all for joining, and I guarantee you that my opponent, who never comes out and answers these hard questions, her campaign staff right now is picking through my questions and my answers for their sound bites. But I want to remind the voters that I am here facing your questions that I have not seen, I have not read. These are questions from me. I don't have a teleprompter. I don't have someone signaling me. I'm not Googling it. This is me. So I want to promise my future constituents that when I'm elected, I will be here and I will hold regular town hall meetings right here in CA 26. Thank you, good night, and God bless.